So the rocket ship represents the things that really motivate. And it's a great discussion because what motivates people? Yeah. And firstly, when you speak to a lot of direct leaders, they're really interested in this topic because they're really interested by their people and what makes them tick and what under what conditions they work harder, and under what conditions they don't. And I know a lady who's motivated by oil painting, and she is a forensic accountant. So she can read a balance sheet and work out if companies are trying to fraud you or defraud you out of money based on the ability to read a balance sheet. And she hates her job. Yeah, she hates Excel sheets. She says, "Oh, it's so boring. It's all numbers." And she says what really motivates her is painting. And she has a painting studio set up at home in the light, and she's got a picture in her mind pretty much for 30 days, 45 days, because one picture takes that long. And it's a continual motivation for her to think what she's going to do that evening after she's spent a day hitting the keyboard and doing the forensic accounting.
Interesting. So motivation makes people, in an organization, if you think about it from this perspective, it just makes people more productive, more creative, and committed. Yeah. And usually people want to be more than they were before. And these are not how you are treated at work, but it's what you are allowed to do at work, what has meaning, what is significant for you. Because people really want to do something, not just avoid pain all their life. Yeah.
And so what would we do with this knowledge? Understand the things that motivate you. The line that I really love is the line from the aeroplanes. When the plane begins to crash, put your own oxygen mask on before you worry about that of other people. So look to your own motivation and understand what motivates you, number one, and keep yourself motivated whenever possible. Always number one, to make sure that you are as motivated as you can be, because a demotivated you will invariably lead to a demotivated other person. I used to have a boss and when he was in a bad mood, his 3 secretarial assistants were paralyzed. 2 girls and 1 guy. They were just paralyzed. They weren't able to work because they were so worried about the boss's bad mood. When we told him, we said, "Jack, what's going on? You're in a terrible mood and nobody's working because of it." He said, "I'm not in a bad mood." He didn't even know it. Yeah. And so was he motivated? Not very. Was he productive? Well, he was always productive, but so I don't really want to equate motivation with being in a good mood or a bad mood, but for sure a motivated person is going to that's going to rub off on people around them, especially if they are more emotive and feeling types.
Absolutely.
So from this list, there are 2 or 3 which are way more important for me than others. I'm not really motivated by personal growth. Personal growth is like, adults doing an MBA, a PhD, learning languages from their own volition, from their own motivation, in their own time, spending hours. Got a friend across the road. She's doing an MBA. She's doing 15 to 20 hours a week. And, and the only reason is to grow herself. And it's really a fascinating and strong motivator.
I think I'm also motivated by personal growth, but I think you can only taste it. You can only be motivated by it once you've tried it and see what happens there. Yeah. Because if you look at yourself, if you look 15 years behind, you're thinking, interesting. Yeah. So all the work that I've done, now I'm getting results out of it. I'm not thinking only for today. I'm thinking for the next 10 years. But I'm also, for instance, motivated by recognition and achievement and advancement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should discuss a little bit what each of these motivators mean.
So, recognition, for example, is not necessarily being told you've done a good job, but of somebody or a group of people recognizing that your work product has been useful within a different context.
Mm-hmm.
And very often this comes across as being positive and invariably as, but for the person who is motivated by recognition, the fact that their work product is in a place where it is visible to other people is something that keeps them going back and going back. For me, the word motivation, a misspelling of the word, it's the motor that keeps you going back again and again to do more and to continue. So achievement is, recognition for sure is a very important motivator. Achievement, on the other hand, is similar to the marathon runner who goes into a training program, and at the beginning of the year, he'll have a little black book with all of that he's done during the week. Or I know a lady who's a swimmer, and she swims a crazy number of kilometers per week. It's something like 30 kilometers a week in training for swimming. And she'll do like a 3, a 4, a 4, a 5. And it's very much this achievement process of ticking things off, of taking a big goal and breaking it down into smaller goals. That's what I see from the achievement motivator.
And the advancement is painting a picture of where you will be in 1 year or 5 years or 10 years. Yeah. So you have to know where you will be. For instance, if you're an employee and you're in the company, you're working in an organization and you're one of these people that is very motivated by achievement. How do you behave? What do you do?
You will very often go to your boss and say, what can I expect? Where will I be? What's the next step for me? And so people who ask this question regularly, that's an indication that they are really motivated by advancement. And so, as you say, if you're not able to paint that picture for them, then you do risk losing them, because it's very important for their motivation to see where they will be in the near or far future. My brother had a young guy called Job who was 18, didn't have the qualifications for much, and he was working in the university. And he asked my brother, he said, "Peter, where will I be in 1 year's time?" And Pete had thought about this a little bit. He knew that he was motivated by advancement. So he said, well, in 1 year's time, I need somebody to be able to drive a group of students all around Western Europe to the European Union institutions. And I'm looking for you to do that. And Job said, but I can't drive a bus. He said, yeah, we're going to need you to get your qualifications, driving licenses for buses, big vehicles. And Job says, will I have a different job title? Says, yep, absolutely. Job, the executive bus driver. He says, I'll think of a better job title for you. And he says, and you'll have a pay rise, 10%. And, Job leaves that discussion full of pride, full of vision. And Pete was saying that over the next 2 weeks, Job told everybody where he was going to be, what he was going to be doing. Yeah. He indicated that if anybody needed to know about global strategy, they could ask him, because he had a good inroad to the top. And, his motivational criteria was solved for the whole year. You just have to make good on your promise later on. And so that's a really interesting motivator if you know about it, because one conversation and away they go. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you look at these motivators, Tim, is there one of them that says nothing to you, so you're absolutely not motivated by it at all? For me, it's a responsibility, for instance.
Yeah. For me as well. Responsibility. I associate responsibility with having people management responsibility. And, I've had several direct leadership positions in my life, and they always stress me. They always keep me awake at night. I don't think I'm really the right person for that type of stress. And but it's not only about people responsibility, it's about responsibility for product, for process, for system, for program. So project managers, for example, are very often motivated by responsibility because it feeds them and it feeds their own self-image. But on the other hand, if you say to me, here's a project, would you like to be in full control of it? I'll say yes, but not because it motivates me, but simply I feel more comfortable having full ownership over it. Yeah. And this is kind of the difference. Motivating is it really gives you energy and makes you curious about what's next. Whereas, just having responsibility over it means full power and control, means that if anybody makes a mistake, it's your mistake and nobody else's. And I think those things are different.
And the work itself, this is just people loving doing what they do. Yeah.
And again, they get energy from it. And so for me, definitely a big motivator. Doing more of what I do motivates me to do more of what I enjoy doing. And so, it doesn't mean that you can give the person who loves programming more programming work, because it might not be the right kind of programming work. But when they're doing the programming work that they really like, then for sure, it really motivates them to do more. And I work with a lot of programmers, and the majority of programmers I work with have their own programming projects. Who am I speaking to? You've got a programmer at home. He's constantly doing his own programming projects on the side. And so, I think the work itself is highly motivational for a lot of people. And some people really, in a way, it's easy. You give them more interesting work and they're more motivated to do the other work that perhaps isn't so interesting. But in all of these cases, it's the question for the leader: what motivates my people? Yeah. So, within the context of an organization, there is a discussion called the appraisal meeting. The appraisal meeting is sometimes called the one-to-one. And it's the yearly, half-yearly, quarterly meeting where you sit down with somebody and you say, so, how's it going? How have you been performing? What's the feedback that we've collected over the past quarter year, half year? Where are you doing well? Where do you think you need to improve? And this is the appraisal meeting. This should be an extremely motivational meeting. It very often has a different part of the meeting linked to it called the People Development Program meeting or the development discussion. And this should also be motivational in and of itself. It certainly is the place where you can ask a lot of questions which help you understand what somebody's motivation, what somebody's motivational criteria is. For example, what motivates you? What are the areas at work where you get full feedback, where you get a lot of feedback from people telling you that your work product is valuable for the organization? Can you give me examples of projects which have gone really well or not so well? Are there areas where you want to grow and develop? What level of investment are you interested in putting into your own personal development? What demotivates you at work? And so we would call this diagnosing employee motivation or trying to find out what makes somebody tick. And within the context of the organization, the appraisal meeting is a good place where some of these questions can be asked.
It's a very interesting topic because not a lot of leaders think about it really specifically and targeted. Yeah. I've never seen a diagnosing employee motivation meeting take place, and I've been in software companies for more than 10 years. Yeah, it's just a topic that is sometimes overlooked.
Funnily enough, I saw it used in a specific case where a particular person was hired. He was very young at the time, but he was a genius. He was brilliant at tech. He was brilliant at customer bases, a great networker. And he was hired over the heads of like a group of 10, 11 people. And after about 9 months of working with this team, they were all very resistant to him and his leadership style. He went on a road trip and sent out a list of questions before the road trip. And he said, I'm on my way. I'm coming. We need to have a discussion. And I'm going to try and think about the answers to these questions from your perspective. Please have a think about them too. And he said that this was a pivotal moment in his leadership career because from the 11 people that he went to visit, 9 of them worked out really, really, really well. 2 didn't, but, 9 of them did, and switched over the relationship within that face-to-face meeting fundamentally and put it on a good course from that time onwards.
Oh, that's what I call a good idea. Yeah.
It's like, what's he doing? He's saying, I'm interested in you. I want a good relationship. I want to know what makes you tick. I want to make the world for you a better place to work in. And if I can do that in any way, then I will. And so the authenticity of the leader, meeting the realization on behalf of the employee that my boss cares about me. what more can you say? Yeah. So while at the end of the day, it may be better for a leader to focus on things that demotivates groups of people, certainly the interesting part of the topic is what motivates people on an individual level, because this is something that you can grow over time into a skill or into a practice area of understanding that will never get boring, never get old, never go stale.